Chapter 31. The warehouse had fallen silent. The only sound was the wind whispering outside. Elsa returned from the shadows. Rue could make out the vague shapes of bodies in the distance. He was thankful that the dust floating in the air obscured most of the carnage. Elsa looked down at Cord. "All under control?" she asked with a smile. Cord frowned as he rose but said nothing. He brushed the dust off his bearskin and cloak. The huge red ghost wolf lumbered over to the Earth Mother and sat on its haunches, an impossibly long tongue lolling from its jaws. "Good boy," she beamed, shimmering into ghost form and scratching the huge beast behind its ears. Cord came to stand beside Rue and Vint. The boy noted that Pirate Bowl had vanished in the confusion. "What on earth is that?" whispered Rue, nodding at Elsa and the giant red spirit. "Fenrir, a spirit guardian," said Cord. "They follow her around. Most are pretty useless, but he comes in handy." Rue glanced at the bodies in the shadows. He nodded at the understatement. The Earthmender rose to her feet, shimmering slightly as she became solid. The huge red wolf faded from view. Rue turned to the sounds of heavy footfalls. He looked up as the huge Ironside approached Cord, the room shaking with every step. "And what on earth happened to him?" "He got big," said Cord simply. The colours still rolled off the warrior to his giant champion. "It's advanced stuff." The colours faded and the giant champion shrunk down to its normal size. It gave the warrior a smart salute, and Cord returned it. "At ease, soldier," he said with a small smile. "And what was all that floating around with the purple magic?" said Rue, still looking around wildly. Cord cracked a smile. "Still asking a lot of questions, lad. The school will answer all of them for you, I'm sure. But purple magic, it's the weaving of the red and the blue. It's true magic. Weaving affects the core of the world. Burning the red like you can do just affects yourself." Cord turned his attention on the room. "We better leave. I'm sure some of those assassins escaped." A voice hissed from above. "Very few, if any." A tall lady landed lightly on the floorboards. A glowing green circle shone from her forehead. Her fists were bloody. Rue recognized her voice. It was the woman that Cord had played WHISP against in the abandoned tavern. Rin. Cord nodded to her. He pointed to one of the fallen assassins. "Some of yours," he said. "They have runes carved in them like you do." "They are nothing like me," said Rin with disdain. She knelt beside one of them. "They are small greedy men with a lust for power." She held up the assassin's arm. Rue took a closer look at the symbols that ran across them. Each one was different, some sharp and angular, others curved and graceful. They were not like the tattoos Rue had seen on the pirates of yore, where ink seemed to shimmer across the skin. These were like words carved into wood, deep gouges that scarred the forearm. Rue glanced at Rin's own forearm. It too had the strange runes carved into them, though she had so many more, perhaps 30 to the assassin's 10. Some of them glowed softly. There was one that looked like a little eye. This one burned softly with a green light. "The rune of seeking," said Rin, and with a start Rue realized she had been watching him. "I pass my green coal through it to power it. It seeks out life. You, boy, burn red like a bonfire. You will need to learn to dampen that blaze in you, especially if you wish to spy on WHISP players in abandoned taverns." Rue felt his cheeks burn. She dropped the assassin's arm. "These men were rune carved before they mastered the flow of Ko. It leaks out of their runes constantly. Their life force strips away, and they have no way to replace it. They do not live long." Rue glanced at the bodies. "Why would anyone do that?" Rin sighed. "It is different where I come from. People are born into a station and must stay there. Some think they are destined for greater things, and this gives them a way out." She looked at Vint and frowned. Her stare was intense, and Vint shifted uncomfortably. Rin raised an eyebrow. "Maybe it is not so different here." Cord interrupted them. He had knelt down beside the unconscious General Hawkins. "What shall we do with him?" Rue noticed the big man's fingers curled tighter around his sword. Earthmender Elsa rested a hand on Cord's arm. "We leave him. He has failed Karoo. That may bring him back to us." The big man frowned. "You know Karoo is behind this." "Only now. His magic is all over them." "And what about her?" said Cord, nodding in Vint's direction. Vint found her voice. "I can look after myself."
"I'm sure you can, lass. But you're blood-marked now. We all are. Those assassins will hunt you down."
He looked at the bodies scattered over the floor.
"Today was a bad day for Karul. He sent these men here in secret to begin taking out targets, soften us up without us even knowing it."
He eyed the crippled girl.
"Maybe even find our school."
Vint's face coloured noticeably. Oni patted Rue's ear, and Rue cleared his throat. "That was Pirate Bowl's plan," said Rue. "To get Vint into the school and then have her tell them where it is. I heard them talking about it." He met Vint's scowling stare. Vint nodded slowly. "That was Pirate Bowl's plan, true. But I just want to learn magic. Once I got out of Yor, I was never coming back. I'm not so different from you, Rue." She glanced at the body of Uvi. "Besides, I can hardly stay here now." Rue's eyes narrowed. "Unless you acquire some important information to win back Bowl's favour." Vint drew herself up to her full height, her knuckles wide on her cane. Rue squared up, his fists bunched. "Enough, you two," said Earthmender Elsa. "She comes with us. I sense the truth in her." Cord shrugged. Rue was sure he saw a look of triumph flash across Vint's face. "This is a mistake. You don't know her," said Rue. Rin nodded. "I agree with the Red Burner. This girl cannot be trusted. Her code shifts and turns like a snake." Elsa smiled. "I like snakes," she said simply. "You cannot risk the school," said Rin. "There are more important things than the school." Rin and the Earthmender locked eyes for a moment. The monk sighed and bowed in concession. "You see further than I do." Elsa gave a small nod and turned to Rue. "We shall meet at your home, at the old school tower, I believe." Rue frowned at her. He caught Vint's raised eyebrow. "That was a secret," he whispered sharply. "So you can gather your things," Elsa continued, "and then we leave for Eru." "Tonight?" he asked with a start. Elsa nodded. Rue grimaced. It was all happening so quickly. He was about to abandon his old tower and leave the only life he ever knew. He didn't have a choice. As the night wore on, all his options had slowly dwindled down to one. He couldn't stay in Yor. He had to hide in the School of Magic and trust this strange old woman who had a bird living in her hair. Oni patted his ear reassuringly. He gave the doll a small smile, and then suddenly remembered his promise. "Okay, but I'll need to run one more errand before I go. It won't take long. I will meet you back at my tower." Cord shook his shaggy head.
"These streets aren't safe tonight, lad. We must stay together."
Rue set his jaw. "Then we will run my errand together." Cord's gaze hardened as he crossed his arms, towering over the small boy. Rue and Oni crossed their arms. Elsa chuckled. "I guess we shall." Colours began flowing off her like a twisting stream, and Crowfoot grew huge beside her, the size of a wagon. She floated gracefully onto the giant bird's back. "Hop on, you two!" She patted a spot behind her. Rue glanced across at Vint and saw her staring wide-eyed at Crowfoot, caught in a moment of childlike excitement. He realised he had the same expression. The great owl head watched them calmly with jewelled eyes. Rue sensed a deep intelligence behind them. He was aware of Cord watching him. The big man looked amused. Irritated, Rue shrugged and casually climbed onto the crouched creature. Hoping his hand stayed steady, he moved nimbly and made his way to sit behind Elsa. He sat down like he'd seen the horse riders do, though this mount was much bigger. He looked at Elsa's back. He wasn't sure what to do with his hands. Awkwardly he placed them on the Earthmender's shoulders. His heart hammered against his chest. Vince stayed back, her cheeks burning. "I can't climb up there, not with my leg." Cord made to move, probably to lift her up with magic, thought Rue. He felt a rush of sympathy for the girl. She would hate to be carried up like that. Quickly he stuck out his hand. "Pfft," he hissed. "You've chased me over every rooftop in Yor. Just get up here." Vint looked at his hand, and then at him. Her gaze was unreadable. She reached out and with surprising strength pulled herself up behind him. Rue's cheeks coloured as she pressed against his back. He kept his eyes forward. Fortunately, the awkwardness was short-lived as Crowfoot stretched out its metal wings. Rue felt Vint hold on tight as the wings bit down powerfully. Crowfoot took to the air, a trail of gold flowing behind her. Rue's stomach dropped as the ground fell away. Cord floated up beside them as they flew through a collapsed hole in the roof. Suddenly they were high over Yore, the city speckled with the glow of 1,000 orange lights, the cool sea breeze rushing past them. The end of chapter 31. And if you enjoyed that, leave me a like and subscribe for the next chapter. I'll see you soon, and thanks for listening. Bye.